Applause! Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for turning up. I understand there's a little bit of, well, a much better marketed event just next door. Clearly, this is the substantial event where we're going to talk about real issues. Defense, prime minister, stuff like this. Not so exciting. But hey, I'm guessing that because all of you are here, you already understand the challenges and perhaps some of the opportunities in the urban environment for decarbonizing the urban environment. The estimation at the moment is the urban environment or cities are responsible for 70% of global carbon emissions. Not a massive surprise, given well over 50% of people already live in cities. That's where most of the economic activity is happening. That's estimated to be hitting about 70% of a growing population by 2050, which means that decarbonizing the urban environment is not only an urgent challenge, but it's also a super opportunity, actually. And I think we want to take it from that angle, that actually for founders and investors, decarbonizing the urban environment is a massive opportunity if you just know what the specific problems are that you can focus on. We are very lucky then to have not only an expert, but very passionate panel on this exact topic. I think you've just had the initial, I was going to make those introductions there, which has already been sorted out. Maybe if we can kick off the panel by actually asking, I'll start with Karin and we'll move along, to give a little bit more context to who you are, because I know that you're building something in Ülemiste, here in Tallinn. But also, what are your organization, who is your organization and what are the sustainability goals for them?
Yes, thanks for having me. My name is Karin Marjapuu and I'm from Ericsson. It's a big corporate, so I would like to ask who knows what Ericsson is doing nowadays. Building, or we are not building mobile phones anymore. It's actually, we are a network between you and your device. So we are a little bit this unseen substance. Ericsson as a corporate, I think it's a Swedish company as well. And we in Estonia have more than 2,000 employees. It's a very large, one of the largest production facilities. And I think why I'm here as well, we are building a new, let's say, hopefully most decarbonized factory in close area. And we will open up a new factory in Ülemiste campus, which is super nice area. And Ericsson, I think why I'm so proud of Ericsson is a really true integrity-led company that actually works what's more behind the profit. And we have very ambitious sustainability goals. So in my operations, own activities, we need to be net zero by 2030. And across value chain is 2040. And that puts us really, I would say, strong requirements, but also makes us think about the new opportunities. So I think that's the key in that sense for today as well.
I think we're going to pick up on the value chain along the way, aren't we?
Yeah.
In there. Bartel.
Hi everybody, my name is Bartel. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Urban Works and Environment in Tallinn. I'm a climate politician, Liberal Party, and before that there's a green foundation here in Estonia called Rohetiiger. So I was responsible for leading a team who wrote a climate-neutral construction sector roadmap 2040. So how the Estonian real estate and construction sector could become carbon neutral by 2040. That was a very interesting assignment. So that had technologies and that had a whole lot of smarter urban planning in it.
Thank you very much. Ada, who the hell are you?
Hi everyone, I'm Ada. I'm with PT1. We're an early stage venture capital fund based in Berlin. We also have a team in London. And basically what we do is we invest in early stage startups working on sustainable solutions to decarbonize our built environment. Our LPs, they come from big construction and real estate companies. And so we're basically helping them find amazing founders, passionate founders, working on climate tech solutions to find more climate neutral construction technologies.
Fantastic. I think what's really exciting again is your LPs are actually in the construction sector. So if you invest in something, it's got a real chance of actually getting tested and going somewhere, right? And yeah, Callum Cameron, RSC Labs, We build impact ecosystems around industry and government, so things like bringing startups in to help the construction sector and the real estate sector get to net zero much, much faster. So we're going to start with digitalization. So there's a few things we're going to go through: digitalization, net zero buildings, and urban mobility before we move on to more general questions. As I say, if you do have questions along the way, chuck them into Votima, and we will try to get, we'll get a passionate and hopefully informed response to those questions as well. So digitalization, Ada, if I can start with you. So digitalization, every time you hear the word smart buildings, smart HVAC, smart whatever, it normally means it's built on data, which basically means that's a digitalization process. The World Economic Forum reckons that digitalization alone can actually create 20% of the decarbonization of the built environment. And I'd love to get this tested with you guys. So that's by 2050. IoT, sensors, AI, machine learning, all of the wonderful buzzwords. What is happening out there in the future?
So there's a lot of things happening in the future. We also have lots of new innovations happening in the early stage startups. But I would categorize them maybe into two different segments to make it a bit more clear. So first of all, there are more hardware-based deep tech solutions, which are like large-scale battery storage systems that you can also actually install into your own houses. But I think the problem that I see there is, so it's a great scenario to have your own building, creating its own energy, storing its own energy. But when we think about it on a more commercial scale, we see some challenges there. It's a bit easier to have the whole digitized system in a single family house, where you have your own solar PV panels, your own battery storage system, your own EV charging systems. But when we look at the more urban areas, dense population areas, it's a bit more difficult to deploy these systems because of some infrastructural difficulties. And the second group that I would categorize is the more enabling solutions, which you can use at your houses to, I don't know, track your energy consumption levels, also report your energy consumption levels, which are actually used by big companies like Ericsson. But also what we see there is we need a bit more political push, I would say, in terms of reporting, because yes, today big companies also have to report their emissions, but they can also, for example, do this by using some estimate numbers without really focusing on the accuracy of how much energy you really consume. But yeah, definitely a lot of things going on.
Did you want to name check any of your startups who are working in this space?
Yeah, sure. So I will first focus on the hardware-based ones. We have two really remarkable examples from our portfolio. The first one is Wolfgang. They work on stationary battery storage systems, which they sell to companies, so they can actually store excess energy in their sites as well. And the second one I would mention is TerraOne. They basically develop projects, large-scale, grid-scale battery storage systems near transmission lines and substations, so that when you have excess solar energy, you would save this energy in the battery storage system, and then you would deploy it back into the grid to de-stress the grid a bit. And the TerraOne is actually the most recent investment that we have done about 1 month ago.
Oh, okay, so it's very recent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the the data layer that actually enables them to do a lot of this work, right? Because they've got the intelligence there.
Yeah.
Bartel, if I can just pick on you for the moment, because obviously you're a great believer. Digitalization is going to solve most of our problems. We're going to get 20% of the way to net zero with that. It's just the politicians who are in the way, apparently.
Yes, politicians are the problem. Yes, absolutely. Politicians are the problem and the solution to the climate crisis in Estonia, Europe, globally. So this is hardly news to anyone, I believe. So if we take all of these companies, any elements of the urban stack that we have, be it hardware, construction, material, what have you, a smarter way of working with different construction partners through, I think it's called alliance partnership in English as well. Anyway, take whatever you have. Politicians are in the way because either the regulation is old or either if we commission a road, if I were to commission or build a road, which is what I now do, then I've been in this job for about 2 months. It's been hugely exciting for the first 3 weeks, and then I hit the bureaucracy wall, and my job is to go through that wall, which is, well, wonderful. And I've already found out that in Estonia too, we have lots of interesting, innovative construction materials for, I mean, whether we take timber or concrete or asphalt. And the public sector is simply very, very slow in adopting all of these things, as you probably know. So if we'll probably deep dive to these examples, right? But if the keyword is now digitalization, the public sector, at least in Tallinn, definitely, there's one program, there's one app that would help a great deal. It's Slack. If only we used Slack. And
that great Estonian innovation.
So that probably is one thing to illustrate, exemplify.
Okay. What I found very interesting there was you weren't shouting out about all the amazing sort of digital twins, city digital twins, and
yes,
sort of
we
stuff
have
going
all
on
of
there.
those. Yes.
Yeah, you're finding them enormously valuable.
They are very valuable.
Yeah.
They are old news, I would say. We need digital twins. They are the building block of the future. I don't get too excited about digital twins. We work on them, yes, absolutely. If we need to discuss digital twins, let's do that. But I think that's now behind us, and we need to build on that. And if you ask a politician, what's the way forward? Politicians and the public sector need to be more bold and commission and accept different things that are out there, be it novel construction materials, be it Slack, or be it to have shorter meetings, stuff like that. Very basic stuff, really, simply to be able to absorb what is out there to test. That's still where not only the city of Tallinn, but other public sector entities are as well. I used to work as a consultant in the Nordic countries. So we're doing great stuff. Tallinn is innovating like never before. All of that is true, yet if we zoom out from Estonia globally, then we're simply not doing nothing anywhere near what we should be doing in order to halve emissions this decade and then half again the next one, and then in the 2040s, right? We need exponential decarbonization.
Exactly.
Karen, do you have a thought?
Yeah, on your topic as well, that politicians are on the way, but it's, I think, also what goals are we setting? I think we need to have much more ambitious goals, because in a work like strategy as well, OKRs, they actually meant that you are reaching 70%, or they have to be so aspirational that they create this innovation. Because my company does it always. They gave us so challenging assignments. First day you fall off the chair, like, how the hell are we going to reach it? Next day somebody comes with a new information, and suddenly you have a solution. I think in that sense that we met also politics now with one team in that sense, and also we need to have realistic goals. Well, is that the minimum program you are taking in that sense? Because we shouldn't have realistic goals, because to be really frank, as I said, I have very challenging goals. I only know by 2026, 27 what I reach. The rest is still unknown, awaiting technologies to develop. But we are still hungry for more in that sense. And even though that we know next few years for sure, and we have massive leaps coming, I don't know the let's say last mile and last tail in that sense. And there this innovation comes, because I need to ask this. Otherwise, if I have like a realistic goals, means I'm going to go very flat actually, and we will miss this exponential curve in that sense.
May I ask, what are realistic goals?
Well, that's exactly what was presented to me, and then I was also asking, for me it seems like we are going into minimum program, because goals have to be, they have to be a little bit catchy in that sense. They have to be insane in that sense.
Yeah, I really like this, the idea that sort of realistic goals should actually be the bare minimum that you achieve, right? Everything else should, where you should actually be aiming is above that, right? Exactly. So with the building in Ülemiste, what's the influence of digital, and how far is that going to get you to saving the world?
I think we are looking at that two perspectives. One is the building itself, so it's a very highly efficient building envelope. Then we use our own produced renewables, then we use our own waste heat, which is, waste is like a new commodity in that sense in all areas, and then we take it from a grid in that sense. The energy, we definitely target fully green energy. But then what's inside and how we digitalize? And yesterday I was also in one panel. We always need to think about the technology still enabler. That's not the target itself in that sense. What you need? We need streamlined processes, we need more efficiency, we need to have more analytic capability also to define the future, because a lot of data that I have currently is here and now, but I need to build a house that's 20 years plus also like, let's say, not feasible, but still like a good shape. But technology is changing such a fast pace.
Yeah.
How we are looking into more increasing simulation capability, because I'm producing hardware.
So
that means
simulation capability, what do you mean there?
For example, even like analysis simulations, that do I really need, because currently what we are doing, we are building prototype as a hardware. Do I need to even build this? Because I should have like
again,
a
is that
digitalized
for your building
analysis.
or is that for Ericsson
inside,
as a
inside
manufacturer?
the manufacturing instances. Building is more actually this, what I said, like energy usage and all the building management system and all. Actually, but the building as well, what's interesting about technology, that we are going more hybrid in that sense. And I think we shouldn't have like a flat demand as well. The demand has to be flexible and also based on the, let's say, occupancy or how much people you have in house, or it has to be much more flexible. How you get this flexibility? You need to have better connectivity, which is 5G. And regarding technology, we are more into simulations capability, how AI can help us, and also we are going full Wi-Fi free and cable-free office, which is quite interesting, again challenging. Cables, think about how many cables are going to one building if you have. So there are a lot of challenging assignments we have taken for ourselves, because it's also 5G that we are producing, and 5G is much more flexible. And by the way, Ericsson, I'll talk about the goals. From the product side, they have reached already with the new platform 4G to 5G, 10 times more energy efficiency. This is super great, actually. But we have much more bytes to use in that sense, because we're using much more data. But I think what's good in that sense, we have flattened the energy curve. So in that sense, it's a great achievement from Ericsson product.
Can I just ask Partel to come in here, and then we probably need to skip on to next topic.
Yes, very interesting stuff that you're working on. I wanted to point out that we too simulate things because if you take the old town, if you take any old town in any city, in the early mornings we have these white vans and trucks coming in delivering stuff to everybody. By this time next year we will have analyzed and we have a digital twin basically that allows us to tell how in 2 years' time we can make these trucks go to one warehouse that we will have built somewhere on the outskirts of that old town, and then from there we will either have robots or cargo bikes or something that will take those goods and then take them across the cafeterias and shops in the old town. We've seen this stuff happen years ago in Utrecht and other places where you have robots or DHL or other smaller couriers or vehicles taking stuff instead of these trucks. And that in the public sector requires to have this massive analysis, because if you take this reform as a politician, you'll be hanged unless you have data to show that this is indeed the absolute best a possible option. But I wanted to, since you talk about the building, something for the audience, a keyword, a program in Norway is called Future Built. Future Built is a wonderful program that we in our construction roadmap quoted very many times. It's 100 climate neutral buildings that Norway will have built. By next year or something, they already have built 70 something. So the mission is to halve the carbon emissions, the national carbon emissions coming from buildings. Future Built. They use construction materials, they use timber, they use startups, and what do they also do is that they don't build that many parking spaces. They simply don't not allow, but they nudge people to take the bus or walk or take the bike in cold Norway, in Oslo, in other places, because that will have the emissions. Extremely unsexy, nothing to do with technology, simply doing away with parking spaces. Future built. If you're interested in this topic, I advise you highly to explore that program.
Fantastic. We're going to come to mobility in a sec as well, hopefully. But actually, what I want to give Ada a bit of a challenge here. So, Karin, you're talking about a lot of the solutions you're talking about, a lot of the work you're talking about, you're actually solving process problems, regulatory problems, whatever else in there. Likewise, Patel. But this is a technology conference. And here we know that technology will save the world if you guys can just catch up with us. But no, seriously, what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and then throw at Ada the sort of solutions that would be useful coming from the tech world or from the startup world that she might have some sort of visibility of, or might actually already have heard a bit about from their LPs.
I actually already have one example for the mobility part that the construction companies and real estate companies are already considering. So think about these whole like public transport options and so on. So if you develop your project as a construction companies near these public transportation lines, you do get reductions, tax reductions and so on. So this is one incentive. And the second idea that they have is installing these mobility hubs already in the development stage, the design stage of these real estate projects. So this is something that we see they are already considering, and this is one of the top priorities in their agenda. And I think it's also a great initiative, but from a venture capital perspective, I would mostly see these projects from a critical perspective, just because these projects take a lot longer and a lot more complex. And from a VC perspective, you have to de-risk as much as you can so that you can actually return your fund in the next 10 to 12 years. So amazing solutions, but I think for these ones, I see such startups working on these mobility solutions need a bit more support, maybe from the city side or from big companies like Ericsson, for you to maybe also implement these mobility hubs inside your location.
That's exactly our plan as well. What you described is what we are doing actually as we speak.
So what are you actually doing?
We are building mobility hub and also reducing parking spots in order to
Actually, sorry, just for everybody, what is a mobility hub?
I can give an example. Basically, just like think a box next to your, I don't know, apartment building or something, and it has 2 EV cars, 1 e-bike, 1 cargo bike, so anything that you need. And instead of, I don't know, taking your car to go to the supermarket, I don't know, 15 minutes away, you can just take your cargo bike and go there as fast as possible, which is, I think, a lot easier to use in cities like Tallinn or in Munich, for example. I lived in Munich for 8 years. It's also really easy to have these options. But maybe when you think about more chaotic cities, like, I don't know, Istanbul, I grew up in Istanbul, I can't see this really happening in Istanbul. So I also see a challenge really between cities, between regions as well. So maybe we need to think about some more comprehensive solutions, some creative solutions that we can also deploy in different infrastructures.
So Karin, what are you doing?
The mobility part, we are actually looking so much from people perspective, a well-being perspective, and how to enforce people to actually green commute. And then you have to make the enablement. You need to speak with city, which we are doing continuously, how we get more bus lines, how we get more tram lines, where are the bus stops, the frequency
actually take
as
this
well.
into consideration when you're actually looking to
we are talking now, because the house will be ready in 2 years, but still we are talking now about these things, because things take time, and I need to be considerate. If I need a bus station, I need to speak now.
And didn't you say that the reason you're moving the building is you couldn't cycle to work? I think you were telling me the other day, right? So we're putting $1 billion into a new building just so you can cycle to work.
Yeah, so we are asking bicycle lines, for example, pedestrian pathways, everything, because you just can't make it to your people as well, that we just everything being reduced. We need to guide and help the people, also create awareness, because I think that's the key as well. And what else? I lost one of my thoughts already, what we are doing.
Hold that thought. Now, these keywords will sound old, but I think in the urban environment, there's a lot of going back to the future. There's very much stuff that we, a century ago, how we built cities a century ago, the density, how it looked, how we walked around, how we connected. That's That's probably, at least how I feel and see based on data, what we need to do. If you add technology to that, that's wonderful. Another thing that sounds really old is gamification, perhaps. How to motivate people in Istanbul or elsewhere at your work to use a car that's not yours in that mobility hub. And public transport and the rest. So how to motivate people? They won't do it because it saves the planet. We've understood this, right? We don't save for pension. We don't do our homework, right? So we're humans. So paying people, probably, I say as a politician, is something that we should think about. Gamification or somehow connecting that with a conditional universal basic pay in the European Union or globally, that's an interesting idea that somebody in the AI realm, I can't remember his name, recently just said too that if we look at the risk that AI could pose on humankind and they will take all of our jobs, then perhaps we could flirt with the idea of a universal basic pay. I think that in terms of mobility, so if we do programs, apps, or companies or cities, we'll try to get people to use the technologies that we have, electric bikes or shared car fleets or what have you, then perhaps we need to motivate them financially somehow. Because in the political realm, the trouble is that if we do the right things too fast, paying people or not, the populists will arrive. So if we get too ambitious in our clothes, in cities or in national governments, they'll be ready. The far right will be ready. And that is why we need to understand as politicians how to achieve that balance, to move faster in terms of adopting new technologies, nudging people, and versus what? Stability.
But it's also about incentives, but also make it feasible in that sense. Because if you would have a nice lanes, bicycle lanes, I wouldn't. I mean, it requires a lot of change management. Actually, that we need to also, I mean, admit in that sense. It won't happen overnight, and you can't do the things by very sharp because you need to create the awareness and share people what does it actually mean and what you want. When you engage people, I don't know, we are a production facility 24/7, we have very mixed employees. We started to create like sustainability bingos. People just came and they were so interested in that sense that you have the power. But they need to also share and engage people what you want in that sense. You know, Sustainability Guild, people are giving loads of ideas what they want actually. So that's as part of the change management as well, the engagement of the people. And of course, then you do it step by step because I think myself even, you don't like those changes so much because it's inconvenient, but you have to do some things. And when you somehow find these incentives as a company as well, I don't know, get one extra day off or whatever in that sense when you green commute. There's so many options in that sense.
Absolutely. We talk about change management, we talk about leadership and nudging people, and we need to, and we will continue these discussions on sustainability in tech conferences and elsewhere, in your company, in my city, electorate, etc. But gamification still, I met a very interesting company, Fused, it was called with a Z, and they do gamification, and the problem they solve is that children, they're on their phones all the time, the urban environment is shit, so how to get children moving physically, actively, ban phones, we won't do that, B, gamify that. So they've somehow created a system where they run around the urban environment and they do stuff and they go to community centers and practices. In Helsingborg in Sweden and Malmö, I think, they have their pilots. So you go there, you collect your points, you do your thing, you get healthy, and then you can go and play. So he's walking around somewhere here, a guy called Olof from Fused. So gamification apparently still is a way to continue these conversations.
Okay, let me come back to that then, because the question before about, okay, how can startups help, or where are the problems? So we've got a room full of problem solvers, which has actually been increasing during our talk here. So there's a load of talent out here and smart people who, again, just given the right problems to solve, they can probably help a lot. So maybe if I can start with Ada. Actually, before you answer though, guys, we've got less than 5 minutes for this panel. So if you've got any questions, please throw them in Votamo. Can we? Oh. If you've got the QR code, otherwise we can just shout them out on the way as well. Ada, if are there specific challenges which are coming out from your LPs, or you can see startups already working on but not quite able to solve yet? Can you shout them out quickly so these guys know what to focus on?
I think the biggest challenge is related to solutions that are really research-oriented. So, for example, solutions like Fuse, which work on gamification solutions to incentivize sustainability, are amazing examples, but we more focus on really climate tech and clean tech solutions, which require a longer time frame to research, to complete the pilot projects, and to be ready for the commercial scale. I think we need a lot of regulatory push. I think we need big companies like Ericsson Group or like our LPs who are committed to actually give the time and take the risk to give those passionate founders to test their technologies and get them commercially ready year by year. And of course, we also need venture capital funds who maybe have some specialized moonshot funds that would actually put the money in for these kind of technologies.
And actually remember the concept of risk.
Exactly.
In their capital deployment,
yeah. I think we should all be really comfortable with not being comfortable, let's say.
Love that idea.
All three of us.
Love that idea. Patel, can you come up with some very specific examples of problems that these guys might be able to help with? Even stuff that can enable you to be more ambitious at a government level.
Reinvent the democratic election cycle somehow, so that we would be able to think and work more long term. Two examples I wanted to give for you, audience, in a tech conference. Biomason is a very interesting company that tries to solve the problem that the concrete industry producing cement has a massive carbon footprint, but we will be using concrete in the future. It will not only be timber construction. Biomason, so what they are still in a lab stage, an American company. But what they are doing very shortly is that they are growing concrete. They are growing cement using bacteria in a coral-like structure, which is wonderful if we could get, bioconcrete in the very near future. If only the year would be 1994, we would have time to wait for these technologies to emerge. But this is absolutely wonderful stuff and stuff of the future. And another company I wanted to point out is Voodoo with W. Voodoo something. They have, miraculously, voodoo.com. They got that website. So that's a French startup. And what they do, to be very short, is that they take trees, they suck out, extract one component, lignin or lignin, how you pronounce that.
Lignin, yeah.
And then they eject that with other types of material, which can make that augmented wood 23 times more harder and durable than steel. So they can make super wood materials, or they could make those wood materials super slim and super flexible.
Nice. Actually, I might pass on to Karin just to sort of seeing the time there. But Karin, so startups are experiments. They're experiments to try and solve problems, right? So if you want to throw massive experiments at a particular challenge, what would that be? What would help you?
I think what will help us more energy storing and carbon capture technologies and how they are reachable for us in that sense, because I think I don't need so much help currently in that sense, but we will need soon, what we said. But also look at this circularity perspective, as you said as well. There's a lot of opportunities for using residue waste stream and like wastewater or whatever in that sense, and how we take full control of the full life cycle of the product in that sense, because we are now need to decide of the materials that have less harm to environment, but also will have less harm after they have died as well. And that's a very interesting area that you also described to companies that, and in Estonia they are doing that already also. This cement, they are changing also this bitumen, and there are a lot of materials available already, but more being innovative in that sense, I would say.
This is great. This is what startups do, right? They do all this experimentation. Okay, so in our final 2 seconds, one sentence from each of you, because we have, let's say we've got 4 parties here. We have the problem solvers, we have the public sector, we have the corporate, and we have the capital or venture capital. So one sentence for the role of each of those of those angles from your own perspective of getting to net zero in the urban environment. Maybe actually, Patel, I'll start with you, because you're probably the easiest, right? So one sentence, what's the public sector's role in getting society to net zero, or urban environment to net zero?
The public sector's role to get us to climate neutrality is to work faster, stop taking so long meetings, and understanding that we need to show leadership and take decisions faster. That is, we need to work faster. We know all the examples. You have them, the corporate world has them. We have examples that are at work, have worked already. And the public sector simply needs to act a whole lot faster.
Thank you. Karen, what does leadership look like from the corporate angle?
Putting very ambitious goals. And also, I would say in this area, let's divide and conquer in that sense, because we don't need to do all at the same time. We need federate model in that sense. Everybody needs to take their share and let's help each other.
Fantastic. From my angle, startups are there, the problem solvers are there to run masses of experiments to try and solve these specific challenges. Ada, what do VCs do here?
VCs, I think we need to become bolder, and we need to work with the founders who are ready to take the risk and the chance to actually work on more scalable business models to bring hardware deep tech solutions into commercial scale, because I think we all know that the change is really not possible unless we also focus on hardware, not just software solutions.
Good point. So taking risk there as well. We're out of time. Everybody, thank you very, very much. I think the line there was, we all have a role to play, and we're all going to be ambitious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take this with me.